So in many ways, and I believe that this afternoon and as well the forum this morning really, in some ways, although I'm particularly living inside what just ended, is really a reflection of what we began with on Wednesday night. In the sense of, I think we're all asking questions about what does it mean to take responsibility? Whether it's to the science, if you're an investigator and researcher, whether it is to the clinical work if you're a clinician, whether it means if you are attempting to bring this way of being and relating and being in relationship to the domain of education or to corporate life or to underserved people, to the politics of our time. And even if I say, or we say, or you say, yes, I am or I wish to take more responsibility, how do we act? What is wise action? What is right action? How does action show up both as our capacity to refrain, and how does action show up as our capacity to enact movement in some particular way? In either case, it is a relationship. And it doesn't just have to do with the ways that we relate to the seeming world outside of ourselves. It has everything to do as well with how we relate to our own minds, our own hearts, our own bodies. And yes, well, the silas were designed in some way to create a certain kind of social harmony, because it is possible to have more social harmony if we're not killing each other. They're also designed to do a certain kind of internal work, because you and I know every time when we refrain from the conditioning, something shifts. Every time we refrain from the habit, the pattern, something shifts. Including refraining from the desire to be passive and not act when acting is what's called for. And so it's an internal work all of the time that has to do with a certain kind of, if you allow me, purification of the mind and purification of the heart. And they should not be left out of our conversation. That's what we're up to in a very fundamental way. And in that process, our capacity to act wisely is made real. It's enhanced because it's coming out of a different envelope, a different container, if you will. And there will be, I don't even know if this is the right word, failures along the way. I don't know how many times a day I fail. Lots. Wow, it was out of my mouth before I knew it. Or why did I do that again? It's a little late for that voice. I'm saying to you, you have to take responsibility as if it's an order from me. It's not about that. What I'm asking you is to listen to your own general, your own captain. Your own captain. There will be mistakes and errors and dead ends. But none of that is should lead us, I think, to the conclusion that we shouldn't act. Rather, that's part of being a human. You know, I love that. There's not that long a poem, but a poem by Hafiz that not very many people know. Because it's not in one of the popular books about Hafiz's translations or versions. And the last lines of it, I remember reading it, reciting it for the first time. Because that's how I read the poetry, as I read it aloud. He goes like this, because in Hafiz's tradition, and you know this from Kabir's poems, he's speaking, Kabir. It's a very powerful thing. Saki. Hafiz, he says, be strong, Hafiz. Work here, inside time. Where we fail, catch hold again, and climb. Be strong, Hafiz. Work here, inside time. Where we fail, catch hold again, and climb. And that, to me, feels like that's our responsibility. We're going to get dirty and dusty, and this is messy. And so what? It's the way it is. Why not just get dirty and pick ourselves up and keep finding the toeholds, footholds, handholds into our own minds, our own hearts, our own bodies, and into the people around us and the world around us. And if this conference is anything, it is an opportunity and an occasion for us to remember. For me, I'll just speak very personally. I've never, since the moment I encountered the word mindfulness, believed for a moment, from my own experience, that it simply meant remembering where the hell I put my keys. I never thought it even meant for the purely and only remembering that I forgot where I put my keys, or anything else for that matter. In the tradition in which I most live, the only practice is remembering. That is the practice. It's remembering. Not just in the memory sense of the word. The Sufis say there's only one sin, forgetting. There's only one remedy, remembering. Ceaseless remembering, over and over and over and over and over again. And what ceaseless remembering begins to create is ceaseless right action, because it's infused by the remembering. It won't always be perfect, but But the real question is the one that John has been asking us for years. Is it good enough? Good enough doesn't mean we settle for it. Good enough means in any moment. And then we keep climbing. Not like the resume, as in some steady incline. That's a big story. Have you noticed? One major mountaintop after the next. I've climbed. I don't think so. Anyway, what the real study of resume says is what happens between the two mountain peaks is the most important thing you want to know about the person you're going to hire. Because that's when they went down, and you want to know how they work with it. Or that's when they went through a major transition. And how did they live in that transition to make the next transit? To cross the next part of that trail. It's not just about where they got to. Where they got to. So I want to thank each and every one of you. And I don't mean, I'm not leaving anybody out. For being here, for showing up. It is no small matter, have you noticed, to show up? It's easy to show up in the body and nowhere else, but I mean to show up. I didn't like it, but I was glad to know that we're 6 or 8 tables worth of people were really upset at lunch because they didn't like what happened in the morning in terms of the time management. We want to know those kinds of things. That's our responsibility to one another to say, this was not right, in my estimation. Whether we can do anything about it at that moment is another issue. But we want to know. Want to know. And that's true all the way along the way. If there are parts of those principles or standards, let's face it. And remember, folks, we're only talking about MBSR. We're not talking about all the other M's that you might be interested in doing. Only that one. Only that one. For now. For now. Because we have a foothold. We have to establish a foothold. And then go from there. So I want to thank all of you for being here. I want to thank you all and your families and your colleagues who made room in their lives for you to be here. Not ever a small matter. I want to thank you for whatever the resources were that you chose to dedicate to coming here. Because they're not at all insignificant. They're actually quite significant. And in the end, we all vote with our feet. Whatever we say doesn't matter nearly as much as how we vote with our feet by showing up. Not just here, but when we leave here as well. There's a lot more that I could say, but I promised to be done at 4:45, and I'm close. And I want the wedding to go on time. Even if the bride is late, I don't have to take responsibility.